There is a constant currency war taking place between nations, one which never seems to de-escalate. Central banks buy and sell the debt of other nations and use it as a financial weapon to manipulate the exchange rate on the foreign exchange markets. This interconnects with commodities and how they are priced. The economies of the commodities exporting nations are largely affected by the current perceived value of their currency on the exchanges. You came here for the truth. Let's talk today about, number one, Japan. I want to get into Venezuela. I want to get into gold and China. Let's begin right away, very quickly. Right here. Foreigners buying and selling Japanese bonds and stocks. And you could see that this is, in fact, the second biggest drop in history. So here this one is, and that was just back in 2016. Huge. And I am noticing a trend. I mean, every month it differs. However, I am seeing the trend going downward. Have no fear, though. Because as the financial experts, quote unquote experts, tell us, the central bank will simply buy up all the stocks, all the bonds, and they will be saved. That is, in fact, a general consensus among those in the financial industry. Just ask, if money printing doesn't work, then what about Japan? How are they able to do so well? How are they supposed to be such a booming economy if money printing isn't working? And this is the exact reason you know that they cannot be trusted. So here you have a case of the foreigners selling off. As a result, the central banks will come in and pick up the tab. And that's no different than what will happen with the Federal Reserve. And it's just a matter of fact. Shandong Gold says it may have found China's biggest gold mine. We don't know if this is accurate at this time. However, this is the claim. This is the number 2 producer by output, said it discovered deposits in eastern China that could be the nation's largest discovery as it pushes to add reserves. That is, it's big. I mean, we're looking at 382 tons of gold, and that would be, could reach more than 550 tons once exploration is completed. It's a significant discovery, and this company is going to obviously feel the boost. We'll see what all happens. Of course, this is only profitable to them depending on the costs of mining. You have to remember that with any commodity, and this is the reason I mentioned this, with any commodity, you need to be able to pull it out of the earth at a price that makes you profit. I mean, it's pretty simple. However, at this time, you look at things like shale, for example. As the technology gets better, they're able to get it out of the ground at a cheaper price. So it all depends, is it valuable at this price or not? So a lot of times these mines, they just stay inactive for a long period of time. There may be gold there, but it's simply not worth pulling out of the ground at this time. So this is what we have to understand about not just this article here, which I just pulled up as basically a prop, but to tell you that these commodities are highly dependent on the current price on the markets. Auto lending standards eased considerably from 2011 to 2016. Just like the housing, just like everything else practically. It's a little difficult to understand the chart here, but let me show you because it's going upward. But on the left-hand side, percent of lenders tightening/easing lending standards. And that's basically the way it is. Over time, allowing things to become easier and easier. Look, what do you do if you're a bank and you're struggling to make profits? Well, you give people loans. You do everything you can, in fact. And in this case here, you simply give it to people who shouldn't have it in the first place. Venezuela, largely regarded as having, if not the most, then one of the most oil reserves on Earth. Venezuela state oil company was rushing to replenish gasoline supplies in various neighborhoods in Caracas as drivers lined up at the filling stations amid a worsening shortage of fuel. They don't have gasoline, yet they have so much oil compared to these other nations. What does that tell you about what's going on there? They are suffering so bad, and the government is unable to support the economy. Perhaps some would suggest it's being done intentionally. And, I don't know. I don't know what's happening. All I know is that people are suffering. The real people in Caracas, in Venezuela, are suffering. And you could see that they're fleeing. They're going to Trinidad and Tobago. They're going to Colombia. They're just fleeing. Doesn't matter where. And I don't see it getting any better, unfortunately. And it's sad. I have people contacting me all the time from Venezuela telling me their stories, and it's sad. It's sad to see it. It's sad to read it. And, what's being done about it? Nothing. It just gets worse. The inflation gets worse. The food shortages get worse. The gasoline shortage. I mean, at the very least, things that rely on oil should be doing well there. At the very least. But of course, that's not the case. Partly, you could blame it on socialism. Partly, you could blame it on corruption of the government. Partly, you could blame it on the external influences that are in Venezuela. I mean, there's so many things wrong right now going on there. And the reason I believe this is so important is that this can happen to any country around the world. Nobody is impervious. House approves a bill to force public release of EPA science. Wow. A good law. Can you believe it? House Republicans are taking aim at the EPA, targeting the way officials use science to develop new regulations. So the way it works today, and this hopefully will change, is that you want to make genetically modified watermelons that have legs and can run around, okay? So you, as the company making that, you have to do your own safety studies. And then you say, look, the legs, they don't bother anybody. They're safe. We fed it to 10 people for 5 days and they were fine. So then you provide that information to the government and you say, here you go, take a look at it. And the government says, okay, all good. Here's your check mark. So now you can sell those watermelon with legs at the supermarket. But it should be the other way, where the government does their own study on that particular product. And of course, that would be too much, because then you would have to expand the government larger and larger and larger. That's why they allowed the own companies. But I believe that there has to be a better way, because these companies, like the biotech firms like Monsanto's and all those others, are obviously skewing with the numbers. They screw around. They do 90-day tests on things that should be, studied for years and years before they're exposed to the public. And of course, that's not the case. Anyway, a bill approved Wednesday by the GOP-controlled House would require that data used to support the new regulations to protect human health and the environment to be released to the public. Wow. The public gets to know about the things that affect them? What a novel idea. Police have launched into an investigation of what happens to be human waste found in the shipments of drinks at the Co-Atrium factory. That's Coca-Cola. So apparently they found human waste inside of the Coca-Cola and said, don't worry about it. We shut down the factory for a few hours and we cleaned it up and everything's all good. This, to me, nothing really about Coca-Cola, but I just can't help but feel that the safety regulations which are put in place are really just an illusion. We believe that everything's being done to protect us and there's a safety and everything should be fine. I mean, they're selling it, right? Has to be safe, has to be good. Well, that's just a fact, is that unfortunately it's not the case. This right here, I just thought it would be interesting to check out the stock. So Coca-Cola just had some bad news. Human waste inside the Coke. I'm thinking maybe a decline in the stock price, maybe a little bit. In fact, no, it just rose. And that's just simply the way it is. When you think it should be one way, a lot of times it's quite the opposite. Robots bringing meals to DC, yet again, same type of robot, I believe, different part of the world. A lot of these corporations are going to be using this as food delivery, and we'll see how it goes. This is definitely going to be replacing a lot of these jobs that are, perhaps not glamorous, but certainly they're providing somebody with work. And then last but not least, this is totally opinionated. Number one, why the hell is it always cold in North Korea? Every time I see this guy, he's wearing one of these hats. Everyone just looks really cold in North Korea. And also, does anybody believe what's going on in North Korea is actually real? I've talked to individuals from South Korea, and they've told me before about the scheduled tours that you can do of North Korea. And you'll go through, and there's people dancing in the streets, and they're having parades and everything like this. A totally scheduled event that occurs. And of course, it's a big lie, but it's supposed to be propaganda, essentially. So you as an individual, if you're traveling in South Korea, you can go into North Korea and see this whole little sham and play that they've set up for everybody. I think it's funny, actually. But regardless, does anybody believe what's going on in North Korea? I honestly don't. I think it's being used as the boogeyman, but I don't have any true evidence to support that. That's just an opinion that I have. I want to know what you think. I think personally the technology is just so far behind. The only thing that holds North Korea in its place is China. And that's very important. That's why I always, I'm hesitant to believe what I believe. So I want to know your thoughts. If you have any evidence or anything, just post it. I'm interested in that. Thanks. If you found the video informative, then please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you'll find my books, The Money GPS, and my new book, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. So many people have been asking, when's your new book coming out? When's your new book coming out? Well, it's finally out in paperback and in Kindle formats. So if you want to check that out, it's at Amazon. You could flip through it. They have a look inside feature, which will allow you to actually flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.